I like the conversation between Corliss and Bela. She was like, I am blood and fire.
Loved that.
Driftmark needs salt and sea.
I really like the strong female characters in this entire series.
And
that could have gone on any other show, could have gone in a different way.
And it didn't. And I loved that she basically says she was a person. She was a princess. She was a warrior. She was not a thing that was taken from you.
Yeah, she calls her all the things. I love it. She knows how the people view her.
And I loved when Damon was freaking the fuck out, having his visions. He sees his dead wife, their mother, and she's like, have you looked after our girls? No, he hasn't. He's a terrible father. He's
too busy eating you out in his dreams. Like, come on.
Eating his mother out in his dreams.
I mean, it was a really hot scene until I seriously thought it was Danny, and I'm like, oh, how are they going to connect?
Yeah.
Like, is this a premonition for him?
Which would be cool. She's like, you failed me.
Because she really looked like her.
She did.
And I'm like, she's back. How incredible. This is going to like blow the fucking internet up. And then it was his mom. Like, well,
I'm uncomfortable.
Now I feel bad.
Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable.
Right. But Allison, she is basically like, don't you walk away. I'd never gave you permission to call me by my name.
Never gave you permission to use my name.
Yeah. She let him have it.
Crispy.
And that little fucking schmarmy piece of shit.
They burned in their armor. Yeah, no shit. You baited a dragon. What the fuck did you expect?
Yeah.
You fool. Fool. Okay. Hello, and welcome to Unhinged, our weekly chat show where we get together to discuss whatever we're reading, watching, listening to, or engaging with this week. I'm Jen Katz.
I'm Ryan Something.
Hello, Ryan Something.
What's up?
How
Jenny?
are you?
I'm well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I started the HBO documentary on Faye Dunaway.
I saw that. Haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
It's good. It's very good. She is the lead in her own documentary, which is no surprise to anyone. But wow, what an incredible actress.
Yeah.
Someone who has really, we'll talk about this later, which is she realized early on in her acting career when she got good advice from a famous director that her feelings are not her enemy and that her feelings are actually her strength. And when she started to embrace that, her entire career took off.
Yeah.
And she's very open about, and her son is also part of this documentary. And both of them, mother and son, talk about her battle with depression, talk about her battle with bipolar disorder, and talk about her manic episodes.
Yeah.
And how it took her a long time to finally get a hold on that through medication, through years of therapy. She actually went to school to study this so she could understand how her mind is working and how
love that.
This makes her behave, and so she could use it to her strength. And she did. There's one point at the end of the documentary, and the son points out, would we have had this incredible actress had we not had the rest of her as well? And the likelihood is probably no. It wouldn't have been the same person.
No.
Anyway, such a strong individual. She never was one to go along with the Hollywood studio format for how they treated women, but they do talk a lot about, body image and what it was like to be an actress in those days, because there was a lot of commentary in the 70s about her weight. And, but at the same time, she was lauded for being one of the most beautiful actresses ever. And she is, and she was the focus of many artists and photographers because of her beauty.
Yeah. She
dated
stunning.
Marcello, the famous Italian playboy that, was like hot to trot for her. And she had to cut bait. She talks about losing a lot of her relationships after about 2 years, just because she was never really given the proper foundation to embrace the communication and the discomfort and all these other things.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a very fascinating documentary.
Okay.
Highly
I
recommend
do love Faye Dunaway. So I will check it out. I'll add to my list. And that is a great segue.
Yeah.
Into
talking about our feelings.
Yes. So on today's episode of Unhinged, we're going to be discussing the brilliant 2024 Pixar Animation Studios film Inside Out 2. So I took my kiddos, my husband and I took our daughters to see it, and boy howdy, it was great. I mean, I saw you later that day, came over, and I was like, you have to go see this movie. And after you did, you were like, God damn it. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to curse on this because I do want kids to be able. No, does it matter? No. Sorry.
Well, fuck that.
Fuck those kids. Fuck them kids.
Fuck you kids.
No, I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, you were very moved by it. So after you had watched it, we, we're like, this would be a great topic for the podcast. So here we are.
Yeah. It's a great movie. As you pointed out, it is a animated Pixar film.
It is.
But, we were in a time in our lives where animation is more than just entertainment for children.
Yep.
There's so many different versatile films and TV series that are geared toward or even focused on adult themes.
Yeah.
And this film not only focuses on, the theme of how we can balance our emotions, but it's true for children as much as it is for adults.
Right.
So,
it's a children's film.
Yes.
But it resonates. Yes, it resonates with everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So this film is a direct sequel to Inside Out, which came out in 2015.
Yes.
This one, Inside Out 2, was directed by Kelsey Mann and his feature directorial debut. It was produced by Mark Nielsen from a screenplay written by Meg LaFave and Dave Holstein and a story conceived by Mann and LaFave. Amy Poehler, Phyllis Smith, Louis Black, Diane Lane, and Kyle MacLachlan reprised their roles from the first film with Maya Hawke, Kensington Tallman, Tony Hale, Liza Lapira, Ayo Edebri, Lily Marr, Grace Liu, Sumaya Nuruddin Green, Adele Exarchopoulos, and Paul Walter Hauser joining the cast. This film tells a story of 14-year-old Riley's emotions as they find themselves joined by new emotions that want to take over Riley's head. So before we get into our discussion on this film, I want to give a little background on the first film, which you have not seen yet, correct?
Correct.
It's on Disney Plus whenever you want to watch.
I almost watched it last night and I went with Faye Dunaway instead. So
it's fair.
One emotional wreck to another.
Right. So the first film, we meet Riley, who's 11 years old, and we see the personified emotions in her head. It's like a control room. There's joy, anger, sadness, disgust, and fear. And Joy's the leader. She wants Riley to be happy, and she goes out of her way to get rid of any non-happy feelings and memories, and she pushes sadness out a lot. And that all comes to a head because Riley and her family move from Minnesota to San Francisco, which that's a big move. It doesn't go very well at first. Their moving truck gets diverted to Texas. They don't have any of their things. They order pizza the first night. There's broccoli on the pizza. It's an old house in, San Francisco, which I think would be stunning to live in. And yeah,
sign me up.
And Riley's dad has a new job, so he's super busy. So Riley is dealing with a lot. And on her first day at her new school, sadness causes her to cry, which causes a sad core memory. Joy tries to get rid of it. In the process of Joy trying to get rid of this memory, her and Sadness fight, and they get sucked out of the control center. And they spend the film trying to get back to headquarters. And, they realize that they work well together.
Right.
And that Riley, who is an avatar for all of us, feels many different emotions, and you have to work together to make the whole part. And joy and sadness especially, they go hand in hand a lot. So it's a great movie. I cry every time I watch the first one. My kiddos love it. And so, we took him to see it. And Inside Out 2 picks right up where the first one left off. Well, not really. It's a 2-year time jump. Riley's older. She's established in San Francisco. She's playing hockey. She's got her friends, Grace and
Bree.
Thank you. And they're going to go to hockey camp. She's about to go to high school. The night before hockey camp, inside the brain, the puberty alarm goes off.
Yeah.
Which is such a great scene. And she, the control center is wrecked. There's wrecking balls. There's all kinds of stuff. People are like, what's going on?
Yeah, there's a construction team that comes in. They're like, we got to make room for the For the new emotions.
For the new emotions.
Like, wait, what?
And I want to point out something before we get to the new emotions. The first intro of the movie, there's a little montage, I'm Riley or I'm Joy, and this is Riley. We love our girl. And this is Riley's sense of self.
Right.
And it's Riley's voice saying, I'm a good person.
I love that.
My parents are proud of me. And I just started crying. Yeah. And Talia, my 4-year-old, was like, Mama, why are you crying? Like, well, it's just,
sure.
It's to have a kids movie where they're showing kids that that's how you can talk to yourself.
Right. Showing a healthy sense of self.
Yes, you can.
One that I didn't have and that I struggle with. Yeah.
I still struggle with it. Like, those good things aren't the loudest voices in my head.
No. Mm-hmm.
And to see that to have that representation and to see it, kids absorb all of that, and to have a girl say to herself, I'm a good person.
For your girls to see that, I think is, one of those things that they're going to remember.
Yeah.
And we'll hear from them in just a little bit.
We
talking
will,
about how this movie made a very good impression on them.
Yes. The girls will make their podcast debut. Yeah. Very exciting. So it picks up where, Riley's now older, sense of self. She's trucking along. She's solid. Puberty comes in.
Puberty comes along. And then the next morning, we meet all these new characters.
Yeah, we meet the new emotions.
We have 5 new emotions. Anxiety.
Yes, voiced by Maya Hawke.
Envy.
That's Io Edebri.
Embarrassment.
Well, Paul Walter Hauser.
Ennui.
Ennui.
Which is such a great emotion.
Adele Exarchopoulos, who is French, and she plays ennui with a French accent. It's so funny.
And we have a 5th emotion who comes in once or twice in the movie, and it's nostalgia.
So funny. It's a little grandma.
It's so great.
Toddling in with her tea.
Oh, I remember that. It was such a good time. I mean, everyone in the theater that was with me started laughing. It was great. But, Riley wakes up the next morning after the puberty alarm went off, and she's irritable and she's
stinky
and cranky. Mom's like, hey, let's go.
Let's go. Get your stuff.
Starts crying. I mean, it's like all these emotions coming up at the same time.
Yeah.
Puberty,
man. Couldn't pay me to go back to that time. Could not pay me.
Joy wants Riley to have fun at camp.
She does. So we meet the new emotions that come through, and everyone's kind of like, what are we doing?
Right. And anxiety starts taking control.
She does, because on the way to camp, Grace and Bree have a secret. They let Riley know that they're going to a different high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so anxiety spins out. She's like, well, we've got to get to this camp, and we've got to establish ourselves. We got to make new friends, because we can't go to high school and not have friends. And
we got to get a winning spot on the team, so we're popular.
Yes, we got to be accepted. We got to be in.
Right.
Whew.
And
it's a lot. And Joy, like you mentioned, she wants Riley to have fun. Mm-hmm. And so there's a power struggle between Joy and anxiety to the
point where anxiety sends the other emotions to the back of the mind,
along with Riley's sense of self.
Yeah, that's right, because there's like a tree of some sort that represents her sense of self, and it's like all the core memories that have come together to create this inner reflection of herself. And so they basically destroy everything that's in the emotions out. There's a new control center. Ennui can control it
from her phone,
which is hysterical. And then they take her sense of self and send it too. And so they're creating these new emotions. Are trying to create a new sense of self, and anxiety makes it her mission. She's like, hey, it's my job to look ahead. It's my job to think about the future and to prepare for any scenario that might take place. And it's a struggle.
It is. And anxiety, we see her adding new parts to Riley's new sense of self, where it's like, oh, it was so hard to hear. Mm-hmm. It was like, if I don't make the team, I'm not going to have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was all these negative self-talks. And it was just, these are things we all feel in one form or another. Like, especially if you weren't modeled certain things, like my negative self-talk, like I mentioned, far outweighs my positive. It's something I'm trying to work on. It's something I'm trying to model for my own kids, so they have a very positive sense of self. But you see anxiety adding to this sense of self, and it's all the like what ifs and it's tied in with fears and things that may happen. We don't know if they're going to happen, but they may happen.
Right. So you got to be prepared.
Got to be prepared.
I think it's such a good film for kids to try to wrap their mind around what anxiety is or what they may be feeling.
Yeah.
And maybe not necessarily kids of a young age as much as kids maybe in their teenagers, but it's also realism and relatable. This Riley's experience is something that adults in the theater can connect to
1,000%
and relate to, which is what makes this film so incredible.
Yeah, it shows how how do I want to word that? So throughout the film really takes place over a weekend because it's when Riley's at hockey camp.
Mm-hmm.
And while joy and fear and disgust and sadness and anger are trying to get Riley's sense of self back from the back of the mind, anxiety is ruling Riley.
Right.
Riley does things she never would have done. She's sneaking into the coach's office to like look at private files.
Right.
She's trying so hard to fit in with.
She dyes her hair.
She dyes her hair to fit in with the older girls. Val, who's the captain of the hockey team. Right.
She's basically turned on her friends.
Yeah.
So instead of hanging out with her friends, Bree and Grace, who are her best friends, now all of a sudden it's, hi.
Yeah. And
it's the awkward.
Yeah. She's trying to fit in with the cool kids.
Yeah, she's trying to be cool.
It's really well demonstrated in the scene where she's hanging out with the Firehawks, the hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I love this band. It's some boy band. I can't remember the name they use.
What's your favorite band? She's like, I love and some boy band.
Some boy band. And they're like, really? Like, oh, they were good. Like when I was in I loved them when I was in like middle school. Right. And then Riley backtracks. She's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, they're not that great. And Grace and Bree overhear that. And they're like, what are you talking about? You love that band.
You went to the concert and you had such a great time. You danced.
And that's something I can identify with. I absolutely. So when I went to high school, I came from a really small school, which I've told thousands of times on the podcast. And
back in St. Olaf. Here we go.
Here we go.
We get the St.
Am
Olaf
I the
story.
Rose of the podcast?
I mean, I'm not saying that you're not.
I am the Rose. I love it. So, yeah, back in St. Olaf, I went to a school that I graduated 8th grade with 15 other people in my class. We were small. We had known each other since 1st grade. We were really close.
4 cows, 7 chickens.
Yeah.
And a goat.
I rode a horse to school. It was fine. And I started dating someone from the public high school in the summer before. I know. Mm-hmm.
Slumming it.
He was from the wrong side of the track.
He went to work for her that summer.
God. That'd be more strawberry wine 17.
Okay.
God damn it. This is a podcast. So I was dating this guy and I wanted him he was older. So I was like, I want to be cool and accepted. So I was like ditching my friends and hanging out with him and his friends. And looking back, it's just like, ugh, what was I doing?
Mm-hmm.
But so I watched that and I was like, I identify with this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember really liking, what was it? I can't remember. But basically this idea of like wanting to fit in so bad that you're leaving the people that have been there for you behind. And
sure. Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people have done.
It's a totally normal feeling. This is an age, here. I don't know exactly how old Riley is here. She's
13, 14. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we can all relate to getting to a
She's
point,
13. Sorry,
getting to a point in your adolescence where there's either you're at a new school, or your friends leave and you kind of get separated or split.
Yeah.
Whether it's you who's starting a new school or all of you going into a new school and there's multiple classes. I remember going into high school and it was like, wow, instead of it just being us who, bonded as a class together for 3 years because we had 6, 7, and 8 together. Then we go into high school and it's like 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. There's new sports.
Yeah, new clubs.
New extracurricular activities. There's new clubs. There's, just a whole new world. And you have to find your place as well as find who you are, find your sense of self.
Right.
And I think that that's what this movie just does a great job at relating to people in so many different experiences. It emphasizes the importance of understanding and accepting our emotions, which is such a struggle at that age.
It is. And, they show Riley struggling, especially when anxiety is ruling her decision-making. At the end of the movie, they have a final scrimmage and the scrimmage is going to determine basically if people make the hockey team.
It's high stakes, folks.
And she's she's not even playing as it. She's like, she is a whirlwind. She is not
She
playing.
starts playing by herself.
Yeah, she's not playing with her team. She ends up hurting Grace.
Yeah.
And she gets put in the penalty box where she has a panic attack.
Yeah, this is kind of the point where the movie is leading up to, and she has a breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's because of anxiety. Her anxiety is completely out of control.
Yeah.
The other emotions, joy, anger, sadness, fear, and
embarrassment, all of them,
disgust, embarrassment, they have all come back to the control room, found their way back to the control room, and they're trying to get a hold of the anxiety.
Because at this point, it's just like in the control room, anxiety, the character is a whirlwind.
And it's ultimately sadness that is able to overcome, and then joy. But sadness is able to kind of overcome the anxiety, and she just kind of lets it out.
Because she feels the feeling.
She feels the feelings. And it's like, hey, I'm sad. And her friends, Bree and Grace come over and they're like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, she's like, no, I'm not. I'm going to miss you. And, you know,
this is hard.
And it's very hard. But I have to say, this scene, it really got me.
Same.
I mean, I was just a puddle because I was I was relating to this scene. I understand what it's like for these emotions, even as an adult, to be all consuming, and you feel like you can't turn it off. You feel like you can't make it stop. And it just, you know, the way they visualized anxiety when she got to that point is the way you feel. It's like your heart's racing and
you're sweaty.
You're sweaty.
You can't breathe.
Nervous. You're up. You can't go to sleep. You know, it's something that was very relatable. And,
Same.
You know, I hope that anyone who sees this movie is able to find something in here within themselves that they can relate to and not feel so bad about.
That's the thing. Yeah. You know, I'm 33, you're 43. I think we are of this generation where we had two generations before us, our parents and our grandparents, who being too emotional was a weakness.
Sure. Stiff upper lip,
conceal, don't feel, compartmentalize, push it down,
get over it.
Don't work yourself up. What are you working yourself up for?
Take it like a man.
There you go. You know, boys don't cry, or there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in volleyball. Like, you know, don't be such a baby. You're being such a baby. We all have to deal with the fallout of that because our parents and grandparents repressed so much, and it has negatively impacted our generation, I think. But our generation is helping to break the cycle.
Yes.
And I wish this movie would have existed when I was a kid.
That's right. There's more conversation now about therapy,
mental health.
Yeah. Thank you. Talking, communication. We also live in a day of age where we have access to computers in our hands, and social media has been good and bad about talking about mental health issues, but it really has unlocked an outlet for a lot of people who may not have sought that help on their own. I
agree. Yeah. It's been, like you said,
and
social
films
media
like this, the culture is, let's talk about it.
Let's
identify these feelings.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how they apply to you or how they may apply to your life. And I think it's very helpful. And I'm so happy that we are in a generation and that the younger generation is taking this a bit more seriously than ours and the previous generations before us.
I agree. In this movie, you know, it ends with the emotions coming together and showing that all of these feelings make up Riley's sense of self.
Right.
You're going to feel anxiety, but hey, you know, I think Joy gives it. She's like, why don't you go sit in your special chair? Here's your cup of tea.
Right.
And like, we can only control what we can control. And that's what I got from this movie. It's showing like, hey, you're going to feel these things, but you can't let them rule you. They all coexist. And that's why sadness was important in the first movie, and she's important in this movie. We as a culture, I think, especially in, you know, the United States, if you're sad, people are uncomfortable when other people are sad. And we ourselves can be uncomfortable when we're sad.
Right.
And so sadness being the one that's like, no, I'm going to push through and we're going to feel these things and we're going to process. And we're going to move on. It's great. I feel like this movie, it tells kids and adults, it is okay to feel these things. Don't let it rule you. Right. Because we saw when Riley was ruled by emotion, she couldn't function. Or I'm sorry, when Riley was ruled by anxiety, she couldn't function. But we all feel anxiety.
That's right.
Whether you believe you do or not, or whether you believe in anxiety or not.
It's accepting our emotions.
Yes. And anxiety manifests in different ways. It
does for everyone.
It manifests in like I'm going to come up with different scenarios and what if. It also manifests in I got to stay busy. I got to do something. If I'm not constantly doing something is wrong.
Right.
It's
we put pressure on ourselves to try to get ahead of whatever scenario that we're trying to avoid.
Scenario that we've created.
That may not necessarily come, but it's that fight or flight. It's hardwired into us for a reason.
Exactly.
And it's survival. But if we're not careful, it can overcome the rest of our emotions, including the ones that make life so meaningful, which joy, happiness, sadness,
we feel all
these things, embarrassment, all these things are part of who we are. And this movie does such a great job at emphasizing the importance of understanding these emotions, accepting all emotions. It puts value in helping us to seek support systems and to support one another through difficult times.
It does.
I love this movie.
I loved it too. My husband and I walked out both. I was, a teary mess. And there was the one scene, it might've been when she was having the panic attack where, he like looked over. No, it was the very beginning where she says, my parents are proud of me. And he just looked over at me and he had this like almost stricken look on his face. What are we about to be in for? Because he hasn't seen the first one either.
Yeah.
And
if you're not ready for something like that. And I love that this is an animated film. You're taking your kids to see it, but the adults are coming away with such good information.
We had great conversations with the girls for days after.
I love that.
And it was a great movie. Glad we're seeing more of this in our media, especially marketed for children.
Speaking of conversations with your children, let's hear from them.
We shall. Yeah. We're going to hear from my beloved daughters on their thoughts on Inside Out 2. Here we go. To scream. Okay. Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Do you want your names on the podcast or do you not want me to say your names?
You can. Yeah.
Okay. So today, right now, I am here with some amazing investigative journalists. Two of my favorite people in the whole world, my daughters. All right. So we saw Inside Out 2 together with your dad.
Yes.
Okay. I want to start with you, Aviva. What did you think about the movie?
So what I really thought about it is like they're just explaining your feelings and it just has really great message about your feelings.
I love that. What was the message that you liked about your feelings?
Like when Joy was like, anxiety, we don't need a new Riley. She's as good as she is right now. You don't have to make a new Riley.
So what did you think about at the end of the movie where anxiety and joy and anger and all the emotions, the old ones and the new ones, got together? What did you think?
I just really liked it because it was friendly and they're explaining about their emotions.
I love that. So who is your favorite emotion?
My favorite emotion is sadness.
Why?
Because she's just kind of funny.
So would you recommend that other little kids go see Inside Out 2?
Yes, because it just has a good message and telling everybody like it's okay to have feelings and it's okay that if you have feelings, feelings are valid.
They sure. Hey, last thing. How old are you?
6 years.
6 years old. Okay. Thank you so much for your thoughts. I love you so much.
I love you too.
All right. Now we're going to hear from the wild child.
The one and only Talia.
Okay, Talia. Tell everybody, how old are you?
4.
And what did you like about Inside Out 2?
My favorite part was so my favorite part's when Anger he does this.
You say you like when Anger gets mad and his hair turns fire.
My favorite emotion is anger.
Can you tell us why anger is your favorite emotion?
Because he does this.
Do you ever feel angry like that sometimes? You have to speak. They can't see you.
Yes. I felt angry like that too.
Same. Okay, last thing. Is there anything else you want to say about the movie?
Yes.
Okay, tell us.
So I like Ennui too because he just can. She just controls the thing on her phone.
Yeah, Ennui was cool. She said, "Oh, I am bold."
That's what she liked.
Okay, last question for you. Would you tell other little kids to go see this movie?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, girls, so much. I love you both so much.
Me too.
And who knows, maybe you guys can be on the podcast again one day. Would you like that?
Yeah.
All right. Love y'all.
Bye.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Okay.
Jenny.
That was so sweet.
That was so sweet. I loved your conversation with your girls about the movie, the questions that you used to prompt them, and their responses were just beautiful. So,
yep. See, I'm trying to positive talk my sense of self with I am a good mother.
You are a wonderful mother.
Thank you.
A wonderful mother.
I love them very much.
They love you, and I love you.
I love you. Okay.
Jenny?
Yes.
This is Unhinged.
Sure is.
But if you want to catch our real Unhinged episode this week, go to Friday.
Yeah. This Buffy episode, y'all. Buckle up.
Jenny, this is Unhinged.
It sure is.
And because it's Unhinged, we get to talk about what's unhinged this week.
We do.
What's unhinged in your world?
Before I dive into this, I want to give the folks at home a little bit of some background.
Give the folks at home?
I want to give the listeners
everyone listening gets a home from Jenny.
You get home and you get home
She's
and you get home. You're gonna have to buy it, because if I had the money to buy all you people homes, this would not be the production setup that it is.
That's perfect. Okay.
Lordy. Okay. So just about Unhinged. And when we say Unhinged, like, what exactly do we mean? Unhinged, typically when we describe it as like it's off the rails, it's cuckoo banana bread, it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Sure.
It can be said with like genuine what the fuck, but it can also be said with love.
It can.
Like, we love, for example,
Jenny is unhinged.
I'm very,
and I mean that in the most loving way.
There you go. Right? Like, the stuff we get into on Buffy is unhinged, but it's fun. Yeah. It's just kind of, it's just unhinged.
Off in all the best ways.
Right. And I know I've told this story before on the pod, but my necklace says Unhinged when I went on a girls trip with two of my best friends, Mavish, who was our first guest when we, covered Bridgerton season 3, and Callie. We went into this bookstore in LA called The Ripped Bodice, and they had these necklaces, and we were immediately like, yes, because we feel we're just unhinged people. We're always doing weird shit. We are just always having a good time. It's just unhinged. We're not. And it's like a freeing kind of thing, right? It's just to be as wild and wacky and off the wall as you'd like to be.
We are giving ourselves permission to just be a little cuckoo.
A little bit. And we love it.
Yeah.
So, speaking of cuckoo, okay.
It's where life is fun.
It is.
On the fringe.
It is. And, what am I going to do? Am I going to be on my deathbed being like, I'm so glad I never had any fun and was never silly and weird? No, I'm not. So, this week in What's Unhinged, we need a little jingle. The Crescent City series by Miss Sarah J. Maas, who you all may remember. I just went gaga over in a previous episode.
You did. We had an Unhinged episode where we talked about, was it A Court of Thorn and Roses?
Throne of Glass.
A Throne of Glass, yeah. And you had some pretty rave reviews.
I loved that series. I finished the last 4 books with another one of my best friends, Courtney, who you love, the good doctor. Yeah. And we loved that series. When we finished it, I was, I don't want to leave this world. I love these characters. I love these people. I'm thinking about getting a Throne of Glass tattoo. Like, I'm obsessed. So I've read A Court of Thorn and Roses, her other series, finished Throne of Glass. A couple of my dear friends who have read Crescent City, they're like, oh, this is my favorite of the series. Get into it. My friend Courtney started reading it before I did. And she, texted me and she's like, girl, buckle up. This shit is unhinged. It's wild. I'm like, what do you mean? She tells me some stuff and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like sometimes we aren't bothered by the same things. We're, different types of readers. And I start reading it and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So A Court of Thorn and Roses and Throne of Glass are medieval high fantasy type of books. There's castles and kings and princesses, and it feels like you're in Game of Thrones, medieval Europe,
Lord of the Rings,
that kind of vibe.
Yeah,
not as stuffy, but it's
sure,
it's that. Throne of Glass is modern, and I'm not an urban fantasy girly. I like my high fantasy stuff.
Urban fantasy meaning
modern
cityscapes, cars, cell phones, computers, planes.
Yeah. So they have phones in this series, so it just throws me out. So Crescent City, main character is Bryce Quinlan. She's half human, half fae, and she's a citizen of Lunithian, but Lunithian's also nicknamed Crescent City.
Okay.
It's very Rome and Empire coded.
Okay.
They have the Eternal City. There's a Tiber River. It is the Roman Empire. There's different classes of citizens.
Okay.
You have the Veneer, who are supernatural, and you have the humans. And the Veneer include shifters, vampires, Draki, demons, all kinds of stuff in the Fae, and there's angels.
Sounds very True Blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's just the writing is so different from her other books, and it just throws me out. Like, these characters are modern and they're written in a modern way, but for instance, okay. The main character, Bryce, her best friend is named Danica. Danica is a wolf shifter, not a werewolf. She's a wolf shifter.
Sounds a little shifty.
Hey. And in this world, they refer to people, instead of calling them assholes, they're alpha holes.
Okay.
Because they're acting like alphas.
Okay. All right. Well,
reading the word alpha hole makes me do this. I don't like it. There's also drugs in this world.
Okay.
Which,
like,
do you, boo?
Yeah.
There's Lightseeker, which is the avatar for cocaine.
Okay.
Mirth root, which is weed. And then there's synth, which is synthetic magic that I'm still not quite sure how it works. And they're going clubbing and they're partying and they're, saying stuff like, I don't know, shitbag. And it's just not what I wanted in my fantasy.
When did she write this?
I'm not sure.
Was this after
This was after Throne of Glass, yeah.
Okay, interesting. But
it reads like she wrote this as a 16-year-old more to me.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Do you know when this book came out?
I could probably look it up.
Sorry. I'm asking you the hard-hitting questions.
I know, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, the first one, House of Earth and Blood, came out in 2020.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then the second book, House of Sky and Breath, came out in 2022.
Wait, I thought it was just one book.
No, there's 3 books. House of Sky and Breath, and then House of Flame and Shadow came out in 2024. Just came out.
Okay.
It's not hitting for me, and it's not only the urban fantasy stuff, which I don't like. It's the world building. I like to feel like I'm in a story immediately. I felt that in A Court of Thorn and Roses. Felt that pretty. The first Throne of Glass is a little shaky, but then you're in. This, I can't keep up. There's too much grease in the pot. There's too much stuff happening.
Right. You're just trying to find your footing. Where's the storyline?
I don't know. And then there's things that are happening that don't make any sense. Character was here. How could they have gotten there? The twist is not, it just doesn't hit for me. And it's, again, this is my personal opinion, right? Like, I am a firm believer in no guilty pleasures, obviously, as long as it's not hurting anybody. Love what you love. As long as you're not hurting anybody. I want to make that really clear. But it just reads like frat party writing. There's one line where this guy's a fairy and he says this isn't a later book, but he says he wished he hadn't smoking that much mirth root because he couldn't feel his face, which was a shame given the female that was currently sitting on top of it.
Oh.
which again, that's fine.
Sure. But
it
also seems like it's kind of lifting the, I can't feel my face when I'm with you.
But I love it. It's just, it's jarring to go from Throne of Glass to this.
Like that, right? Yeah.
And it just is what, okay, for example, the main character Bryce has, her male romantic interest, Hunt Athalar, who's
what a name.
Who's a fallen angel. He was part of a rebellion, and he was made into a slave. It's a whole thing.
Sounds like AI wrote this.
That is what it feels like. Thank you. That is what it feels like.
Like we need a name for like an alpha male. It's like Hunt Ather, like athlete hunting. Hunt Ather Larthen.
Son.
Ather. Whatever.
Did you short circuit?
Are we going to have to do the name thing again when I start pronouncing
Yes,
the names?
You are.
God damn it.
These are easier, I think. But for example, Hunt has a cell phone and Bryce keeps stealing it and changing her contact name. The first one is Bryce Rocks My Socks. The next one is Bryce is a Queen. Yep. Yeah. Pack it in, buddy. Pack it in.
Pulls out my typewriter.
Yeah. It's Unhinged. This book is Unhinged. I'm going to finish it because I've got about 200 pages left. Mm-hmm. I need to see how she's going to land this plane. I've got to see how she's going to land this plane.
200 pages would be about, 30 minutes for you? Should be too much longer. Should be done anytime, folks.
Yeah. I've got a dinner engagement this evening, or I probably would finish it tonight.
She does.
Yeah. And we're going to have a little group. It's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that is what's unhinged with my life this week is the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I don't hate it. Mm-hmm. Like my friend that I mentioned, she didn't finish it. She was like, fuck this. Adios. Don't care. I don't hate it, but I think it's insane. Like it's just unhinged. And Sarah J. Maas is killing it. She's like, I think I read the other day, she's outsold she's got the most sold book copies ever at this point. These books are insanely popular. I'm probably messing that up, and if people are listening or screaming, she's fine. And it's just, I don't understand this book. It's unhinged. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Hey, you're welcome, alpha hole.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jenny. That was Unhinged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure and was. Thank you for joining us.
Can y'all make sure if anyone's listening?
A terrible transition.
Yeah.
Try to get into
I want to be buried in this necklace. Okay. Anyway, go on.
Okay.
No, leave it for my children. I want them to know who I was. Anyway,
we can get you another one. I'll get one for your corpse.
Make it in diamonds, darling. Okay. Okay, we're good.
Sha. All right. We want to thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Once More Unhinged.
Please, thank you. We appreciate it.
These episodes come out every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Be sure to check out our latest episodes of Once More, a rewatch podcast that come out every Friday. We are currently on season 2 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, we're about to get into the good stuff, folks. So come on.
For more Unhinged content, please follow us on our social media accounts at Once More Podcast on TikTok, mm-hmm. Instagram, mm-hmm. Facebook, and Threads. Mm-hmm. We are the Once More Pod on X.
Allegedly.
And Unhinged is produced by us, Ryan Something, and Jen Katz.
Hey, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah.
Bye.